I want to bring in Dr. Irwin Redlener, who is founding director of the National Center for Disaster Preparedness at Columbia University and a public health analyst at countless disaster zones that you have been in with a variety of organizations. I want to touch on something that Secretary Mayorkas said. It's that Milton is gone, but the dangers it poses have not. And it was echoing essentially what we heard from Governor DeSantis this morning, and I'm going to play that for you.
We have post-storm fatalities almost every storm, and a lot of these fatalities are avoidable. So please be cautious of down power lines. Don't touch them, and never walk through storm waters. Standing storm waters can also carry a bacteria that can lead to fatal infections.
What is it that people who are anxious to get out, either just anxious, maybe they're safe, their home is safe, they just want to see things, right? Or people who understandably want to get back to their homes, what do they need to know about the dangers that still exist?
Well, there's plenty of dangers that still exist. You know, that we already think about the immediate problems of getting hit by debris or drowning and all that. But after the storm has passed, we're facing huge numbers of threats to human life and health, Chris, and people really need to be careful. I just really want to emphasize what Governor DeSantis was saying about staying away from standing water. It is extremely dangerous. Also, a lot of the infrastructure, the buildings, the homes, things are still unstable. We're still looking at the potential of collapse, of people getting injured or hurt, people trying to drive in dangerous areas where we're seeing increased possibility of automobile accidents and so on. And I think it's really important at this moment.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? Because Secretary Mayorkas is addressing how people are reticent to accept relief. There's so much disinformation out there. Let's listen.
Online.
We most certainly are. We are seeing horrific hate speech of all types propagated on online platforms. That deplorable speech has an impact on people's lives, and it is also a motivating force for people to do harm. And it has got to stop. And it is our work in the Department of Homeland Security to combat hate in all its forms. We will continue that work.
Information about the response and recovery effort?
I have not been alerted to that phenomenon. We, of course, have seen foreign nations disseminate false information for other purposes. I have not seen it in the context of Hurricane Helene or the Hurricane Milton, which just transpired. But, of course, we are quite vigilant in monitoring that.
Good, Nancy.
Thank you, Secretary Mayorkas. It's Nancy Cordes from CBS News. Hurricane Milton knocked out power to more than 3 million customers. How does the scope of the power situation compare to other disasters? And what is the federal government's role in coordinating the restoration of that power? How long will it take?
So, Nancy, a number of questions. Unclear how long it's going to take because, quite frankly, the damage assessment is still underway. So we're at a very, very early stage. Our role generally is to support the state and local officials, the state and local resources, to augment those resources and to work very, very closely alongside them. And we are doing so both in response to Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. But, you know, the response is actually in a number of phases. The immediate phase is search and rescue, life and safety of individuals. And then we go from search and rescue to response and then to recovery. We work very closely with the state and local officials to rebuild whatever infrastructure has been damaged to get power up. We have the capacity to assist, and we also work with the private sector. We have the ability to deliver power immediately, but for the long term, very often infrastructure has to be rebuilt. My visit here in North Carolina underscored that fact because one of the long-term challenges is going to be to rebuild the water system in a number of cities where it's been completely decimated.
Yeah, Jackie.
Thanks, Green. Mr. Secretary, it's Jackie Heinrich from Fox. I want to ask you about a different story. This Afghan national who was working for the CIA in Afghanistan was arrested.
Again, we'll continue to listen in to Secretary Mayorkas. A couple of things I do want to tell you that he has also said. He said FEMA is going to need additional funding, and he's calling on Congress to come back and make sure they have the money that they need, even though he said that the federal government is capable of responding simultaneously to multiple disasters. And Erwin Redlener, that's just what we were talking about. The tremendous amount of danger that exists even after the storm goes away. He just mentioned a couple of things. He said you have to rebuild water systems. There are people who don't have running water, or the running water they have may not be clean. Lack of power can cause problems.
Right, and not only are they problems for individuals in individual homes and communities, Chris, they're also problems for the hospitals themselves. So the hospital may be physically intact, but the electricity may be down, or the water supply may be contaminated, or the sewage system is not working. So the hospitals don't exist in a vacuum, and many doctors' offices are gone to begin with. So the access to medical care and the damage these storms do immediately and then in the long term is really significant. But the most significant, Chris, let's just want to talk for a minute about the irresponsibility of Donald Trump's misinformation that causes people not to trust the life-saving messages they may be getting from FEMA. This is really outrageous and particularly ironic, since Donald Trump's management of Hurricane Maria in 2017 that devastated Puerto Rico was probably one of the worst episodes of mismanagement of disaster in modern American history. And here he is making situations already dangerous, much more dangerous for the residents and citizens of these affected areas. But anyway, we have lots of problems, including, I wanted to just add that even the supply chains, for example, getting IV fluids that the hospitals will need, that has been shut down considerably because the factories in North Carolina can't get the IV fluids to the hospitals when they need them. So there's a lot of work to do. But people should have confidence that FEMA and the local responders, which really state and local have the first responsibility. And you've watched this time and again up close. Over and over again. You know, we see the lessons, but the question is, are we learning the lessons enough to actually apply them? And
I just want to ask, because we're running out of time, but I do want to get to this, and we gave a lot of time to Secretary Mayorkas, understandably. Back-to-back tragedies for many people.
Correct.
Or terrors. Do we know how to handle the long-term emotional, mental toll that this is taking on folks?
Well, there's two problems here. First of all, the toll is enormous for an individual. Your house is gone, your community's gone, you may have lost a loved one, you may have lost your pet. It's extraordinary. The problem is when you have so many people affected, the scale of this need to provide psychological support and services is fantastic. And not only that, we cannot forget that the first responders that are going from disaster to disaster to try to help people, there's a toll on those responders also that it's critical that we pay attention to. This is all tough stuff.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a natural disaster, disasters plural, with lots of consequences.
And lies and misinformation only exacerbate the problem. Dr. Erwin Redlener, it is always good to see you and to have your expertise. Thank you.